suffered losses that must not be forgotten. Together, we can help them rebuild and recover. Together, we are LA Strong, LA United, with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the poor where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind. Caress the mind and question justify. With you and God in time, my best align.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
You are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, your host and chief White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so guess what? You be in touch. You can join me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nicordelai. That's DRNIIQ. Just type in Dr. NIQ. Let's keep things simple. And I pop right on up. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you'll never, ever, ever miss an episode. You'll always have us just right there in the palm of your hand. This is quite a time to keep us in the palm of your hand. There's a lot of information out there swirling. You can always count on the information that we provide. We take good care in vetting what we share here and ensuring that we have some of the best and brightest experts and leaders on the front lines to make it all make sense. Make it all make sense. Everybody's just trying to navigate the world as best we can, and that's why you can count on us to be your political news digest, your daily political news digest. You can provide on us. You can expect us to provide you, rather, with, as I said again, expert analysis and interviews with folks who are leading voices, folks who are not just leading us forward, but voices that are shaping the culture. And so that's our mission here on A More Perfect Union. Speaking of A More Perfect Union, there are a lot of those leaders out there that are doing some heavy lifting out there. They are outside and extending themselves in kindness and in generosity. And, you know, as much as we want to keep you informed about what's happening related to the LA fires, one of the biggest stories trending in the world right now, we also don't want to pass up the opportunity to keep you in the know when it comes to the work that our people are doing to show up for one another. I heard from one of my friends, Kenya Parham, who is the Global VP of Partnerships over at the Spill app. And I was delighted when she shared with me just a project she's working on in the spirit of love for our communities. A big collaboration with a number of partners and partner organizations, including Walk Good LA. We've had Etienne Maurice here on the show recently. Organization he co-founded, Walk Good LA. Afro Punk and Essence are all teaming up with Spill And guess what? So far, they've raised a lot of money to support families, Black families in Pasadena and Altadena. They are constantly monitoring and cleaning up this list of displaced Black families. There's a GoFundMe directory. The cumulative totals are updated every few hours, but the most recent update I saw was at $6 million. $6 million raised for 350. And they built this pretty amazing coalition. And so hat tip to that work that is afoot with the Community Aid Dena Fund. Again, $6 million to support 350 families in Altadena and Pasadena. But we all know the work isn't done yet. You can visit the link in the bio for Afropunk to contribute. And we look forward to having those partners on in the near future to talk more about that work. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And kicking us off, we'll go to New Orleans first, where this report came out, or I should say this investigative report from the Washington Post came out on how New Orleans failed to protect Bourbon Street from an attack block by block. That's right. The Washington Post exclusively reported that as New Orleans officials deployed to protect thousands of revelers they knew would flock to the city's famed French Quarter on New Year's Eve, they parked a police SUV to block the main entrance to Bourbon Street, a packed pedestrian thoroughfare long seen as vulnerable to a vehicular ramming attack. But the SUV left a large gap. That allowed the driver of a pickup truck to turn onto Bourbon Street hours after midnight. Videos show in the first moment of a deadly Islamic State-inspired rampage. It's not a momentary security lapse. It's not. At various times earlier that evening, the gap between the police SUV and the nearest structural obstacle was more than twice the width of the attacker's truck. That's according to a Washington Post examination of visual evidence that was found. A short distance down the block, the truck drove over a hydraulic metal barrier that officials had planned to raise that night to prevent unauthorized vehicles from driving down Bourbon Street. That's according to a New Year's Eve road closure plan obtained by the Post. That barrier was left down. And beyond that point, there was no anti-vehicle barricade or police vehicles blocking the path of the truck that night. That's according to eyewitnesses and video footage reviewed by the Post. The driver sped virtually unimpeded for almost 1,000 feet, plowing through a crowd of people until he struck a piece of construction equipment that happened to be there for a project unrelated to security. And so, these are some of the details that are coming out as a result of the Washington Post collecting information and examining visual evidence. I'm sure there'll be more coming out that shows, yes, you had, this bad actor that had malintent, that was inspired by the Islamic State. But right now, it looks like there's some evidence that the city of New Orleans could have done better. From New Orleans to nearby Houston, Texas, the Houston Landing is reporting that community organizers are frustrated by a lack of access and input in Mayor Whitmer's first year, as the mayor is just getting used to office. He seems to be keeping local organizers at bay. Leticia Gutierrez remembers feeling optimistic at the start of Sylvester Turner's first term as mayor, but as director of government relations and community outreach for Air Alliance Houston, Gutierrez was asked to represent the organization in Turner's health transition team. But that position, she said, helped to create a blossoming partnership between the group and City Hall. Since Mayor John Whitmer took office, that relationship has faltered. 1 year into Whitmer's term, Gutierrez and other local leaders are working on transportation and climate and community issues that they feel unheard, ignored by Houston's chief executive. Whitmer rejects the complaint, saying his relationship with the community group is very close and full-time. He went on to say that no one is genuinely more involved with the community than me. Much of the differences in communication style with organizers can be attributed to the philosophical shift between the Turner and Whitmer administration. The biggest piece of it, some people say, is that you had 8 years of administration that was very grassroots driven, and then suddenly, overnight, had an administration that came in with the mayor that takes a broader city view. That's what they're saying. And so, so many of these issues that we care about are hyper local, and if the communication isn't strong between the mayor's office and the various constituencies that they serve, then that's the beginning of a lot of problems. And you don't want to wait. You don't want to have a situation where, there is a crisis and you're not able to tap into those relationships sufficiently in order to bring people together to overcome that crisis. This is a story that we're seeing not just in Houston, but we're seeing stories like this, or the appearance of stories like this, pop up in lots of different places. Finally, happy anniversary to all of our leaders, learners, and listeners that are a part of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Today, Delta Sigma Theta is celebrating the 112th anniversary of the sorority by exploring the legacies of 13 famous members who made history. If you don't know about Shirley Chisholm and former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms and famed poet Nikki Giovanni, these are just a few of the bad sisters of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Mary McLeod Bethune, Dorothy Height, Angela Bassett, Natalie Cole, Cicely Tyson, Marcia Fudge. The list goes on and on and on. Aretha Franklin, Ruby Dee. And so happy anniversary to all of the sisters of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. When we come forward, we're going to change gears a little bit. Shar Miller, the Pomona College Director of Environmental Analysis and Professor of Environmental Analysis and History, will join us to give us his hot take on how these LA winds are intensifying and what we should be on the lookout for. Tuesday is going to be a critical day in this fight to put out these wildfires that have overwhelmed the city and county of Los Angeles. And then a little bit later, we're going to talk to a real survivor of the fires in Altadena. I'm really looking forward to sharing the story of this one woman whose story stopped me cold on the treadmill. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you, neighbor to neighbor, bringing you resources and what you need to know. Sign up for Notify LA on your phone to get fire danger alerts and updates, or check on lafd.org. The Watch Duty app is free and provides wildfire maps and updates in real time. Keep your gas tank full and plan your route in case you have to leave the area. City and county officials are urging you to pack a go bag so you can be ready to leave your home quickly in case of an evacuation order. Your go bag should include a couple of days of clothing, copies of your important documents and ID, money, insurance information, your medications, electronic devices, batteries, chargers, a small radio, and emergency contacts.
Hey, Shar.
If you receive an evacuation order,
can you hear
gather
me?
your loved ones, grab your bag, your pet
This is
food,
Nicordelai. Do you see the link in the chat?
For information on shelters for your pets or even your family.
Okay, so you're on the
call
other
211 for the
side.
city of Los Angeles and 311 county-wide.
Yeah.
Wearing a mask outside will help protect you
Great.
from
Okay,
smoke,
great. You are.
toxic fume, and particulate
great.
matter.
Everybody's good.
If you don't
Okay,
need to
thank
go
you.
out, it's best to stay
Okay,
home
all
with
right.
the windows closed. Getting to
Okay,
know
me
your
too.
neighbors is a great way to stay safe, stay connected, and share resources. And Angelinos are stepping up to help. So reach out and find the assistance you need. Mutual Aid LA Network is constantly updating a Google Sheet with mutual aid resources. You can find it at tiny.cc-malan-fire. The earlier you make a plan, the better off you'll be when every second counts. Praying for LA, preparing, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. I'm really delighted to be in conversation again with Shar Miller. Shar Miller is the Pomona College Director of Environmental Analysis, also W.M. Keck Professor of Environmental Analysis and History, and knows a lot about California geography and topography, and can really help us understand how we got here, and more importantly, what are some of the more lasting solutions that are going to get us to the other side of this calamity. Welcome to the show, Shar.
Thank you so much for having me back. The last time we talked, I think you were outside the White House. Is that something? Am I remembering correctly?
No, you're absolutely right. I'm in Washington, D.C. today, but from time to time, work calls. And so I was talking to you last time outside the White House. The White
Great.
House, who is really marshaled federal resources, certainly like I've never seen before, in the fight against one of the worst natural disasters, one of the worst wildfires that we have seen in history. Shar, I've got to ask you, a lot of people are concerned about Tuesday. We know that between now and Tuesday night, that those Santa Ana winds are going to be coming back with a vengeance. What should we keep an eye out for if, in fact, we are really about to turn the corner and get on the other side of this calamity?
So I think there's one of which is what firefighters are worried about. This fire demonstrated its capacity to throw embers 2 miles, maybe even more than that, away from where the fire is. 60-mile-an-hour winds, 70-mile-an-hour winds can do that. And so you're fighting here and the fires come behind you and take off in another direction. And that's pretty dangerous. My own concern is, because I'm not a firefighter, is sort of to think in a different way, which is the first round of fires blew up so much toxic smoke. Everything in those houses are fossil fuel based or plastic based, virtually. If you sort of walk around your house and start looking at the paint, at the toilets, at the cooking stove, gas fires, electricity, all of that went up into the atmosphere that we breathe. So at some points it has to come down, right? It's going to get out to the Pacific for some of it, but a lot of it is going to stretch out along the 110 and the 710, basically within that purview. And there we're going through, and therefore is settling on a lot of more vulnerable communities, a lot of more vulnerable lungs. This is an environmental justice issue, but it's invisible. because it's fine particulate matter that you cannot see. Your lungs know it's there because what's called PM 2.5, which is fine particulate matter, the fine is not a good word. It means it's so small, it's invisible, but it can penetrate to the deepest recesses of lobes in our lungs. And that's where we get asthma, we get pulmonary diseases, and we have a weakened immunity system. And there's other things that can happen, but none of them are good. And so my worry over the next couple of days is all of that ash in Altadena and Pasadena is going to get kicked up, and that ash that have fallen on people's front yards and backyards and roofs and their stepways and sidewalks. By the way, I would take my shoes off every day I get into the house because our shoes pick up stuff and then you're tracing it around the house. So I think there's sort of a personal responsibility people need to think about. I would be watching the air quality monitors, and the moment it gets up to the moderate, on with the mask. If you can, in a house with air conditioning, I would run it full stop. If you've got air filtration devices, I would run them full stop. It's better to be safe than to absorb this stuff because interior air quality can be as bad as the exterior.
Yeah, and what about air filters? You know, for people who are living in homes that have air filters, but also for people who are living in apartment buildings or maybe renting homes that don't have air filters. What can they do to keep
That's a great
themselves and their
question.
family as safe as possible?
Yeah, so let me take that in two parts. If you do have ACs, either in a window or HVAC system, switch out the air filters now. If at all possible, switch them out because they're dirty. They have to be dirty. If you're anywhere within a smoke range, they're going to be pretty filthy. If you can do that. If you don't have it, I would be wearing a mask inside. It seems weird because we have doors and windows and presumably some insulation, but maybe not. When I lived in Claremont in the 1970s, we rented this house that, you know, the winds just sort of blew through it. And that's when smog was really bad. And it was, I mean, we hadn't thought of wearing masks. We surely should have. I suspect I'm going to have a little bit shorter life than I might have had otherwise. But I think being really careful when you're inside and outside, you know, in part because we can't see it. We can see big clouds of smoke. What we don't see is the fine stuff. And that's the stuff that's going to get us. So here's a sort of public health issue that gets complicated. We can't distinguish between the smog that we normally inhale in Southern California, because that's just what happens from vehicles, mostly, from fire-produced toxins. But if one's bad and the other is bad, the combination of them is worse. So let's be very careful out there.
Shar, you know, typically when I talk to you, you're a historian and you know, you're an environmentalist, and that's been the spirit of our conversations. But given this news that just sort of broke about 5 hours ago, I've got to ask you this question. Politico is reporting that Speaker Mike Johnson told reporters that one option on the table is to make a new tranche of disaster relief funding for California wildfires, conditional on agreeing to raise the debt ceiling. Part of what we're seeing during this crisis is the political nature of conversations that are being had by public officials. You're the historian. Have you ever seen or heard of any proposed legislative action like this? And what do you make of it?
It's infuriating. It is, imagine Florida and a hurricane that blew through it. Can you imagine either a Republican or democratically controlled Congress doing the exact same thing? Your safety is now going to be held hostage to something else, whatever that something else is. The Democrats would never do that, and Republicans would never do that to a red state. So this is clearly an attempt to slap California and force it to knuckle under to Republican MAGA politics. It's appalling that they would do that with public safety. The Biden administration would never have done that and never did do that. And already we're seeing what the Trump affiliated folks are going to do. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough 4 years in which this sort of cronyism determines American politics, especially the politics of disaster. It's unthinkable, but it's real.
And in that spirit, I've also got to ask you about this. It seems to me that what we're seeing in California is the convergence of the climate crisis, the insurance crisis, and the housing affordability crisis. In about 30 seconds, do you see that the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. We can't not. Who's going to get to rebuild? The insurance companies and banks are going to determine that. Is it going to be the African-American residents of Altadena, the working class of Altadena, or is it going to be the very rich who live in the Palisades? I think we know the answer to that.
I think we do too, and I think we don't have to look any further than our next guest, Sigma Merrick, who is a resident of Altadena, who lost everything in the Eaton fire. Sigma, I saw her interview, an interview that she did on News Nation. And I was on the treadmill watching the interview. It stopped me cold. When we come forward, I'm going to tell you why, and you'll have a chance to meet Sigma Merrick and maybe even find it in your heart to support her and her family. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, you've tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Southern California Edison is being sued over claims its electrical equipment is responsible for starting one of the wildfires in the Los Angeles area. Investigators are examining the site, now off limits. The New Hampshire Supreme Court rejected a lawsuit against white supremacist group NSC 13, ruling 4-0 that their 2022 Keep New England White banner in Portsmouth did not violate the Civil Rights Act, citing free speech protections. Prominent Black Granada civil rights attorney Carlos Moore has been suspended from practicing law in Mississippi for 1 year. The suspension, issued December 31st, follows an investigation revealing he misdirected $300,000 from a settlement. And Orlando, Florida is celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. this week, starting with a vigil, march, and interfaith service at Shiloh Baptist Church. The city has officially proclaimed this week Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Week. I'm Amber Payton on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
It's a tough drive right now as you make your way along the 210 freeway. Eastbound slowing out of Pasadena, loading up from the 134, taking you ahead all the way to Irwindale Avenue, where they're trying to get that right lane reopened after an earlier wreck involving a couple of big rigs. Also tough on the 10 eastbound. We're looking at you getting out of City Terrace. Delays loading up at City Terrace Drive in stretches all the way to Azusa. And along the 60 eastbound, that's tough out of East LA, away from the 5. And that slow drive continues all the way to the 605. 605 northbound in Norwalk, slowing from the 105 freeway as you continue ahead towards the 10.
Now's the time to shop limited time doorbuster deals during Lowe's Pro Savings Days. Save $50 on a Little Giant King Combo 6-foot ladder. Was $199, now $149. Doorbusters valid 113 to 115. Selection varies by location while supplies last.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers and Clippers have home games tonight after a pause in their schedule because of the wildfires in LA County. The Lakers had 2 games postponed. The Clippers had 1. The Lakers are at home against San Antonio at Crypto.com. The Clippers are at home against Miami at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. We'll let you know tomorrow morning which LA team had the highest attendance. No change in the NCAA women's basketball rankings. For the 8th straight week, undefeated UCLA remains number 1 in the country. UCLA is 16-0. USC is number 4. The Trojans are 16-1. Reports out of Pittsburgh indicate that Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin, the dean of NFL head coaches, will return for a 19th season in 2025. Tomlin, one of 4 black head coaches in the NFL, has never had a losing season with the Steelers. The Steelers were eliminated by Baltimore Saturday in the first round of the AFC playoffs. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
To our beloved greater Los Angeles community affected by the devastating wildfires, we stand with you. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, our hearts go out to those who've lost loved ones, homes, businesses, belongings, and precious memories. In these challenging times, we're here to keep you informed and connected. For the latest updates, resources, and ways to help your neighbors in need, stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580. Together, we'll rebuild. Together, we'll recover. Together, we are Los Angeles strong. KBLA Talk 1580. Your voice, your community, your station.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi. Can't hear you.
It would be great if you could hear me. Now you can all hear me. You're listening to a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and really delighted to be in conversation with Shar Miller, who is the Pomona College Director of Environmental Analysis. He's also a professor there and a stellar historian. And then Sigma Scott is an Altadena homeowner who lost her home in the fire. And I want to be very specific with language because she didn't lose everything. She lost her home. And that's what I heard in the interview that she did on News Nation this weekend. The interview was so compelling that it stopped me cold. I was on the treadmill while I was watching it, and I had to stop I wasn't running. I was on the incline, y'all, on the treadmill. But it stopped me cold because I was just blown away at just the grace and the frequency that she tapped into during that interview. I couldn't imagine what it's like to lose everything that I've worked so hard for. And Sigma, for you to share a sense of gratitude about it, it took me aback. Share with our leaders, learners, and listeners your perspective on this great loss that you and the people of Altadena are experiencing.
I'll tell you what I know is that there's no such thing as loss. And if you say of loss, you'll attract more things to you related to loss. I know that if I give more energy to being gratitude, that will feed my path moving forward. So this comes the angel guidance from the young lady you spoke with, Jamila, is a really beautiful where she's able to give people like me messages. The angels will give messages through her. And for 15 years, guidance or the things you might get in. What you see with your eyes is not quite what it looks like. It's not the reality that we see. That it looks like a loss. It's not. 100%. Something is happening, yes. My house was by the flood. It didn't just happen to me. I'm not a victim. And that what I have been taught for 15 years is release to receive. So as the flame was very visible across the street from my house, I was able to let go of my possession, coach myself down the hill, release to receive, because I've worked so hard, yes, and it's not what it looks like. I just have to keep telling myself that, because I literally have to choose. What do I take? Much to decide and to walk away. The release to receive from it was so later. I didn't have any regret for not taking that. I didn't know what to take, so I had a choice in that.
Yeah. Sigma, your story is so great, but we're having a little bit of an audio challenge. And so our sound engineer is going to communicate with you. But while you're working on that, I want to go back to Shar. And Shar, I want to hear from you. You sort of, what do you have to say to our leaders, learners, and listeners who are less familiar with the California terrain, who are just mind boggled that these wildfires have gone on for days and days and days? And yes, there are a number of them that have been 100% contained, right? And we are really delighted to report that progress. But there are still fires that are burning. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, between now and the end of day Tuesday, we're expecting these Santa Ana winds to pick up, and Lord knows what can happen in that case. And so, educate us a little bit on the landscape.
We're all mind boggled. I totally understand why people who don't live here don't understand what's going on, because in many respects, although we have had lots of fires, this one is an urban structure fire that moved as fast as a hurricane because it's pushed by hurricane level winds. And so, for example, for those who might be living in Miami, imagine trying to stop a hurricane. For those who live in New Orleans, imagine trying to stop Katrina. For those who live in Houston, Imagine trying to say to Hurricane Harvey, move that water somewhere else. That's what this is. This is at that magnitude. Unfathomable, except we can understand it now. And we now just have had a personal story that brings it back down to the street level, to an inside a house in which a courageous soul is trying to figure out what to take. And in that split second, you take whatever you can grab because your life ultimately is more important. But imagine having to make that choice.
Yeah, I mean, and we don't have
and
to.
then the speed. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, we don't have to imagine too much. Sigma, I want to ask you, what did you take with you? Obviously, that is a question that none of us wants to ever have to answer, but you had to answer it. And so what did you decide to take, and how did you come to make that decision really at a moment's notice?
My cat. I couldn't think. Shar just mentioned you don't have time to think, and I had a couple of pair of socks, some underwear, the passport, the birth certificate, and nothing else, because my brain was it was locked, and it was, do I take kitchen appliances? Do I take tools? So I've said in other interviews, I started turning to my furniture and giving thanks and gratitude because I knew that I was leaving without everything.
Wow. That is, again, a situation that none of us want to find ourselves in. But again, your ability to be able to somehow tap into a part of you that in the midst of what I'm sure felt like a calamity,
Yes.
you were able to find your way to a place of gratitude, to express your thanks for your home and all the things that made it feel like home before you went out that door for the last time.
And that was not overnight. As I said, this is 15 years of just dropping into the guide I've received over the years. I can still hear the echo, but I'll repeat. If my frequency is loss, I will attract more loss experiences. It'll come by way of relationships. It can come by way of money. And so again, 15 years in the making, I know that I didn't lose my home. I've been rephrasing it for others. My home was taken by the flames, but I didn't lose my home. It didn't just happen to me. I didn't leave an icon. I'm not a victim. I love my property. I love my home. I love the neighborhood. And at this particular moment in time in life, it was time to release it. And so I did.
Do you plan to rebuild?
Yes. And I'm grateful that the other thing, the gratitude, is that I know there will be a new home. Because you have to really know to release this in order to make room for something new. And so that's why you hear that reoccurring message of gratitude. You have to release at the time it really shows its face. Like, this is the end of this journey and something better is coming. So I will always stay in gratitude because I know what's coming.
And that is a very big step. Sigma Scott is in a place where it sounds like she has been able to accept the worst of what has happened, but still there are so many people wrapping their brains around what has happened. For our leaders, learners, and listeners that are less familiar with Los Angeles and the greater LA area, Altadena is a historic Black community that really grew out of the civil rights movement in the 1960s. It's among the communities that have been wiped away by these devastating wildfires that charred through LA County for the book lovers out there like me, it's also worth pointing out that Octavia E. Butler, that's right, the late pioneering Black science fiction novelist who wrote about a wildfire from climate change starting on February 1st, 2025, in her novel Parable of the Sower, is buried in an Altadena cemetery. That cemetery, as reported by the LA Times, caught on fire. I've got to ask you before we move forward, Sigma, how are you processing that? The fact that, you know, this storied author whose legacy is tied into Altadena sort of prophesied something like this many years ago through her work. What do you make of that?
It sounds like she was also tapped into, you know, higher guidance, angel guidance, just her heart sensory, you know, it's all here available to us. And as we know, for authors, right, poets, songwriters, there's a bit of meditation that happens in the work. And so probably she was tapped in to her heart space and gratitude. And it's probably poured into her that what she wrote about and what is happening is very coming into fruition.
Sure is. Wow. Well, my thanks to you, Sigma Scott, an Altadena homeowner who is planning to return to Altadena to rebuild. You know, where can people go to support you in the meantime, support your family? I know there's a lot of GoFundMe accounts out there, but where can people go to support you?
The GoFundMe account is on Facebook, Instagram, that's one. I have, pardon me, a business in Burbank, California. It's Whole Body Wellness. I was born to be of service to others, and so I am a licensed acupuncturist. I do acupuncture here. But the best is the Sigma Scott. I am Sigma on Instagram and Sigma Scott on Facebook are the best places to find the real links for the GoFundMe page.
We certainly appreciate you, and we appreciate Shar Miller for also joining us. When we come forward, Kim Kardashian, she calls for pay raises for the incarcerated firefighters, but is that just a diversion from a bigger story involving her sister, Khloe Kardashian, who has really attracted some unwanted attention, shall we say, on social media. I'll tell you all about it when we come forward. The Quiet Part Out Loud with a more perfect union in afternoon drive time.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
The Ignited Light program invites one and all to the 8th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service, January 18th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. The spirit of Dr. King's legacy of service continues as local organizations come together. A drive-through food giveaway, free medical services, the Department of Children's Services offering employment opportunities. Foster and emancipated females aged 18 to 26 can take part in a very special She Ready luggage giveaway on Saturday, January 18th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. More info, visit adayon.org. Again, adayon.org. Drivers, please enter from the Marlton Ave entrance.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you in tough times, connecting you with resources and what you need to know. Evacuation shelters are located in the Pasadena Civic Center, the Dream Center in LA, the Westwood Recreation Center, and many more. You can call 311 for details. If you're in Los Angeles County and in need of food, call Omni Ministries at 310-631-1557. Donations can be made to Zelle, Omni Ministries Inc. at yahoo.com. Parking Lot I outside of Rose Bowl Stadium is a pop-up mutual aid hub where you can pick up everything from clothing to food to hygiene supplies for free. To volunteer or donate to help victims of the fire, contact the LA Emergency Network at enla.org. The Cochran Firm and Ivy McNeil, Wyatt Purcell and Diggs, Jasmine Canick, and others have launched a GoFundMe specifically targeting Altadena. Visit LA Fires. The impacted Black community urgently needs help on GoFundMe. And donate to help Black evacuees fighting for survival. Airbnb is offering free temporary housing to people displaced by the fires. Call 211 to sign up. The LA Chamber of Commerce is stepping up to help you sort out insurance claims and other paperwork. Reach them at 213-580-7500. South LA Cafe has free groceries, clothing, and water available at 1700 Browning Boulevard in LA. Track their giveaways or volunteer through their Instagram at South LA Cafe. U-Haul is donating short-term storage free of charge for 30 days to evacuees. Shelter for small or large animals can be accessed by calling 211. A Black-led coalition of community organizations is offering support and resources in the Altadena area at the Flint Ridge Center at 236 West Mountain Street in Pasadena. For comprehensive lists of resources for housing, food, shelter, and more, visit Mutual Aid LA Network on Instagram. Praying for LA and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte. It's time for the quiet part out loud. And Kim Kardashian making some news as she's calling for pay raises for incarcerated firefighters. She says that she sees them as heroes. I don't think there are many people out there that would disagree with that. USA Today reporting that Kim Kardashian is speaking out in support of a pay raise for these incarcerated firefighters. The Keeping Up with the Kardashian star, in an Instagram story on Saturday, praised the inmates who have been involved in the relief efforts amid the devastating wildfires in Southern California. Kardashian, she noted that, quotes, there are hundreds of incarcerated firefighters risking their lives to save us, but argued they don't receive the appropriate compensation for their work. She says that they get paid almost nothing. They risk their lives and some die to prove to the community that they have changed and are now first responders. She says that she sees them as heroes. Now, more than 900 incarcerated firefighters have been involved in the response to the California wildfires and are working around the clock, cutting fire lines and removing fuel from behind structures to slow fire spread. This is what the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation said just this past Friday. Did you know that incarcerated firefighters are paid between $5.80 and $10.24 per day? Not per hour, per day, depending on their skill level, and they receive an additional $1 per hour while serving during an active emergency. The minimum wage in California is $16.15 an hour. So what the minimum wage is per hour in California, they make less than that per day. Per day. Additionally, incarcerated firefighters can receive 2 days off their sentence for every 1 day they serve. In her Instagram story, Kardashian, who's long been an advocate for criminal justice reform, appealed directly to Governor Gavin Newsom. She called on the governor to do what no governor has done in 4 decades and raise the incarcerated firefighter pay at a rate that honors a human being risking their life to save our lives and our homes. That's what she said. But speaking of saving lives and homes, her sister Khloe Kardashian seems to be going after the mayor of Los Angeles. Khloe Kardashian's being called out for her story of water overuse after she branded LA's mayor Karen Bass as a joke amid the devastating wildfires. That's right. Khloe Kardashian is called out. She's been called out after she publicly criticized the LA mayor, Karen Bass, over wildfires that have devastated the city. BuzzFeed reporting that's confirmed that at least 24 people have tragically died in the fire, with thousands losing their homes, businesses, and personal belongings. And this includes celebrities, but not just celebrities. You know, and on Friday, Khloe took to her Instagram stories to lash out at the LA mayor after the LA Fire Department chief, Kristen Crowley, told Fox 11 LA that the city had failed them due to recent cuts to the department budget. Now, it's worth noting that in August 2022, there was a Rolling Stone article that called out the Kardashians, saying that they're among LA's worst water wasters, using 333,000 gallons over the county limit in June. This was an article back in August 2022. A lot of that water would have come in very helpful in the fight against these fires. So this seems to be yet another case of the entitled, another case of celebrities saying, do as I say, not as I do. Not the finest hour for Khloe Kardashian. And even her big sister, Kim Kardashian's story is no diversion from the ire that Khloe Kardashian is drawing on social media, not just because of her comments coming after the mayor of Los Angeles, but what appears to be the hypocrisy of a family that, again, is doing as they want to do, not operating according to the law when it comes to water usage in Los Angeles. We're going to leave it there. Our thanks to the entire village helps us produce a more perfect union. In our second hour, you don't want to miss this conversation with a civil rights legend joining us from Alabama. You are listening to and streaming a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are monitoring California wildfires, which have killed at least 24 people and destroyed 12,000 structures near Los Angeles. Sioux Falls, South Dakota business owners and the NAACP are condemning racially insensitive graffiti found between 2 stores. The local NAACP vice president calls it part of a disturbing national trend.